Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen, and for this video I'm doing another if-then video. This one will be the movie edition. Last month I did an if-then TV edition, and now as promised I'm doing the movie edition. So how this works is I picked 10 movies that if you like these movies, then you will like these books that I will recommend based on the movie. And I'll link the last one, the TV one, down below. And of course, this can also work in reverse. If you are familiar with and like the book, but you haven't seen the movie, then you might like the movie. So hopefully I haven't over-explained this again or explained it badly. And jumping right into the list, if you like the Britney Spears classic Crossroads, then you will like Paper Towns by John Green. Crossroads is a formative movie of my childhood starring Britney Spears, and it is about three friends who buried a time capsule when they were around like 10 years old or so, and they agreed that they will dig it up and open it at, I believe, their graduation. But by the time they get to graduation, they have all drifted apart, become very different people, and are no longer friends. But the three of them still end up showing up to dig up the time capsule at, I believe, like midnight. And then the movie kind of follows their road trip to go find Britney Spears' character's mother. Her mother walked out when she was very young and she has never seen her since and doesn't know where she is, but she finds out, and so they go on a road trip together to go find her mother. And so if you like this whole road trip theme and this whole mystery of going to find someone, then I think you would also like Paper Towns by John Green. Paper Towns is about a teenage boy who has lived next door to a girl that he has had a huge crush on his entire life. And she's a very mysterious girl who often goes off to strange places. She joins the circus, she goes to concerts, and sort of just runs away a lot and always leaves behind clues. And at the beginning of the book, she calls on our main character to help her with sort of a revenge plot, and they have this night of pulling pranks together, and he thinks that they're finally going to get together, but then the next day she has disappeared. And as usual, she has left behind clues, but this time she has left them behind for our main character. And so he spends the book kind of trying to figure out where she went, and there is of course a road trip involved to go try to find her. And they're both stories of kind of young, carefree teens going on a road trip that has this sort of darker undertone to it with these sort of heavier themes. So yeah, I think if you've read Paper Towns and liked it, but you haven't seen Crossroads, then you would like Crossroads. Or if you have seen Crossroads and you liked it, but you haven't read Paper Towns, then you would like Paper Towns. Next on my list is if you like the movie Hook, then you will like Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson. This one is probably kind of an obvious one. They are both Peter Pan retellings. Hook follows Peter Pan as a grown-up, and he has forgotten that he is Peter Pan, and he's sort of your typical overworked, stressed out grown-up. But then his children are kidnapped by Captain Hook, and he has to learn to be Peter Pan again. He has to go to Neverland and learn to fly again and reconnect with his real self in order to rescue his children. So this one is sort of a Peter Pan sequel type of a setup, whereas Peter and the Starcatchers is a prequel type setup. Peter and the Starcatchers follows Peter before he arrives at Neverland and kind of shows how he meets Captain Hook and how that whole rivalry starts, and shows the secret behind fairy dust, etc., etc. But definitely they both have the classic Peter Pan fairy tale feeling, and they are both interesting takes on the Peter Pan story. And for me, Hook is kind of the classic Peter Pan movie retelling, and this is sort of my classic Peter Pan book retelling. So they definitely pair well together. Next on my list is If You Like Ghost, Then You'll Like If I Stay by Gail Foreman. Ghost follows a man who is murdered in a stick-up gone wrong, and he becomes a ghost, and he's trying to solve his own murder and trying to find a way to communicate with the girlfriend he's left behind so that she can sort of make sure that he receives the justice that he needs and also the justice that she needs. And If I Stay is about a young girl who's in a car crash with her family, and she hasn't died, but she takes on sort of a ghostly presence and is trying to sort of decide whether she wants to die or not, which sounds very dark. And her parents died immediately in the crash, and her brother is still in the hospital after the crash. And she's sort of just remembering her whole life, and obviously family members and friends are in the hospital visiting her, and so she's sort of just going over what she stands to lose if she stays and what she stands to lose if she goes. And so both of these stories are very emotional love stories dealing with the ones we leave behind. And so I think if you like either of these, you would also then like the other one. Next on my list is a little bit of a funny one, but if you like the Aristocats, the Disney classic The Aristocats, then you'll like Warriors by Aaron Hunter. The Aristocats follows a family of cats that are stolen by their very rich master in an attempt to get some money out of her. And they end up escaping and are trying to journey back to their home. And along the way they meet this stray cat out in the wild and sort of befriend him. And so it's kind of a merging of the worlds of these very pampered house cats and this stray cat who's helping them to go home. And then Warriors is about a bunch of wild cats out in the forest, and they've formed sort of 4 different warring groups. And our main character starts out as a house cat, much like the family of cats from the Aristocats. And he ends up joining these wild cats out in the forest and is sort of introduced to their world. And again, it's kind of a meshing of worlds behind the more pampered house cats and the wild cats. So basically, if you enjoy stories about cats and just really like cats, then I think you would like either Warriors or the Aristocats. The final if-then on my list is if you like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, then you will like Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days follows 2 different characters. One is a writer at a women's magazine, and she wants to get into writing more serious pieces, but her boss is always wanting her to write these fluff pieces, and her boss agrees that if she'll write this piece on how to lose a guy in 10 days, that she can start writing more serious stuff. The concept of the article being like, here are the things that you shouldn't be doing when you're dating guys, because it will send them running or whatever. And then our other main character is a guy at an ad agency. And in order to win this big ad account, he sort of places a bet with his coworker that he can get a girl to fall in love with him in 10 days. So of course, these 2 characters meet up, and they're both got kind of these alternative motives to why they're dating each other. They kind of go directly against each other. She's trying to get him to dump her in 10 days, and he's trying to get her to fall in love with him in 10 days. And I think if you like this movie, you would also like Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. Attachments is about, again, 2 characters. One is a guy who works for this newspaper as the IT guy. One part of his job is to monitor the work email and make sure that people aren't, using it for non-work related stuff or stuff that's bad. And he starts seeing these emails between these 2 female coworkers being flagged, but there's nothing like really bad in the emails, so he isn't quite sure if he should flag them or not. and he finds the emails really funny and enjoyable to read. So he ends up just continuing to read them and not flag them, despite the fact that he knows that that's not a good thing to be doing. And he starts to fall in love with one of the girls through her emails. She's super supportive of her friend and super funny, and he sort of just starts to get to know her through the emails and kind of falls in love with her personality. Meanwhile, she is in a long-term relationship with a guy, and it's not really going well, but they've been in a relationship for a really long time, so they're really committed. So it's another one where you kind of get to see a peek into both characters' worlds and see how they're kind of missing each other. And it also involves a person who does writing for a living, and they've definitely got a very similar fun, happy-go-lucky, cute love story feel to them, with sort of characters with similar personalities. And so I do think if you like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, you would also like Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. So yeah, these were just 5 if-then movie-to-book recommendations. If you like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, you will also like Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. If you like Disney's Aristocats, you might like Warriors by Aaron Hunter. If you like Ghost, you should like If I Stay by Gail Forman. If you like Hook, then you should like Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson. And if you like Crossroads, you should like Paper Towns by John Green. Hopefully you enjoyed these recommendations. Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.